Welcome to Skytech-Lens. In 2025, the US shocked the world by doubling tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum to 50%, citing national security. This move blindsided Canada, which supplies 75% of US aluminum imports and is the backbone of North American manufacturing. Ottawa was outraged, seeing the tariffs as a political stunt that threatened decades of economic partnership. For US manufacturers like Ford and Boeing, the tariffs were a disaster, raising costs, disrupting supply chains, and threatening jobs. Aluminum prices in the US soared to record highs, creating chaos for industries reliant on the metal. The policy, meant to protect American industry, instead risked crippling it. The shockwaves spread from Michigan auto plants to Washington aerospace workshops, setting the stage for a trade showdown. The North American trade relationship was suddenly on the brink. The 50% tariff was supposed to revive US aluminum production, but it backfired spectacularly. Instead of a boom, manufacturers faced skyrocketing costs, passed directly to American companies and consumers. Everything from cars to beer cans became more expensive, fueling inflation and squeezing profit margins. Factories slowed down, layoffs followed, and energy demand dropped, a clear sign of industrial distress. US companies lost their edge as global competitors sourced cheaper aluminum elsewhere. The tariffs, intended as a shield, became a sledgehammer, hurting the very industries they aimed to protect. German and Asian manufacturers outcompeted their US rivals, who now faced higher costs and shrinking markets. The promise of protecting American jobs rang hollow as the policy isolated US industry from global supply chains. The economic wound was deep and entirely self-inflicted. America's attempt at protectionism had made it less competitive on the world stage. Canada didn't just retaliate, it reinvented its industrial strategy. Ottawa imposed targeted tariffs on $90 billion of US goods. But the real move was investing $1.5 billion in Quebec's Alouette smelter and securing cheap, clean hydropower. Canadian aluminum was declared a strategic asset, and the government launched a global campaign to find new markets. Prime Minister Mark Carney pitched Canada's aluminum as reliable, clean, and free from US political risk. The world listened. Canada quickly signed major, long-term supply deals with the EU, Japan, the UK, and others. By mid-2025, $12 billion in new export contracts were locked in, including a landmark green tech partnership with the EU. Asian buyers shifted supply chains to Quebec, drawn by low costs and political stability. Canada transformed from a US supplier to a global partner of choice. The crisis became a catalyst for Canadian industrial leadership. To break its dependence on US logistics, Canada invested $2.3 billion to expand the port of Saguenay into a world-class shipping hub. Massive ships could now carry Quebec aluminum directly to Europe and Asia, bypassing US territory entirely. A 375-kilometer rail upgrade slashed shipment times and costs, boosting competitiveness. This new logistics network was a game-changer. Canada could now reach global markets faster and cheaper. Thousands of jobs were created, and international investors took notice. The infrastructure boom signaled Canada's commitment to economic independence. New trade routes became the arteries of a more resilient Canadian economy. Canada was no longer at the mercy of US trade policy. Canada's trump card was its green aluminum, smelted with hydroelectricity in Quebec. In 2025, the EU's carbon border adjustment mechanism penalized high-carbon imports, devastating for US and Chinese aluminum, but a boon for Canada. Canadian aluminum sailed into Europe tariff-free, saving importers up to €200 per ton. European giants like Airbus and BMW rushed to secure Canadian supply, eager to meet sustainability goals and avoid carbon taxes. Canadian producers charged a premium for their green metal, and buyers gladly paid it. Demand soared, fueling further investment in clean energy and smelting technology. Quebec became the global hub for sustainable industrial materials. While US producers lobbied for exemptions, Canada signed lucrative long-term contracts. The US tariffs, meant to punish, had propelled Canada to global leadership. Clean industry wasn't just good for the planet, it was good for business. Canada's industrial strategy shone brightest in its electric vehicle sector. The plan mine raw materials, smelt clean aluminum, build batteries, and assemble EVs, all within Canada. EV exports surged, and the closed-loop supply chain insulated Canada from global shocks. International automakers flocked to Canada, investing billions in new plants and battery gigafactories. Tesla and Stellantis signed major deals for Canadian aluminum and batteries. By mid-2025, Canada surpassed Germany in new EV project value. Meanwhile, US automakers struggled with high costs and supply chain chaos caused by their own tariffs. Canada's cohesive, future-focused industry created thousands of high-tech jobs. The US handicapped its green transition, Canada sped ahead. The nation became a dominant force in next-generation mobility. The numbers told one story, but the people told another. In Quebec, workers felt pride and security. "We took back control," said a union leader at Alouette. Engineers at the Port of Saguenay saw themselves building Canada's future. Across the border, Ohio factory owners faced layoffs and lost contracts. "These tariffs are killing us," one manager lamented. Analysts called the US policy a fantasy, noting you can't replace 75% of your supply overnight. Canada, they said, played its hand perfectly, leveraging green credentials, investing in logistics, and locking in new customers. Even the Pentagon grew alarmed, warning of delays in critical defense programs due to supply chain chaos. "We picked a fight with our most important supplier," a leaked memo admitted. While Canadian workers celebrated, Americans faced the fallout of a trade war they never wanted. The contrast was stark: strategic vision versus political blunder. Canada's proactive approach paid off. The US was left to reckon with the consequences. The tariffs didn't just hurt industry, they exposed a national security flaw. The Pentagon relied on Canadian high-purity aluminum for jets, missiles, and satellites, up to 60% for some programs. Tariffs caused production delays and added $1.3 billion in costs to US defense projects. Meanwhile, Canada boosted defense exports to NATO and Indo-Pacific allies, embedding its materials in global supply chains. A leaked Pentagon audit revealed nearly half of key US aerospace suppliers were now tied to Canadian firms. Canada gained dual veto power over both US mobility and military readiness. America's quest for independence had deepened its dependency. The attempt to assert dominance had backfired, handing Canada new leverage. The aluminum standoff of 2025 is a lesson in modern economic statecraft. America's protectionist gamble backfired, isolating its industry and harming its own security. Canada turned crisis into opportunity, investing in strengths, modernizing infrastructure, and conquering new markets. The $12 billion in new deals was the result of strategic planning, not luck. Canada's closed-loop EV supply chain and sovereign logistics network built resilience and independence. The episode proved that economic strength comes from innovation and partnerships, not protectionism. Canada's green technology became a powerful competitive advantage. The power dynamic shifted. Canada emerged as a global leader. For the US, the lesson is clear. Prosperity is linked to allies, not isolation. The aluminum crisis marked the moment Canada truly came into its own. Thanks for watching the video, and subscribe to the channel for more updates.